Hello, Facebook. My name is Sydney, and I'm coming at you live from the Time Inc. Food Studios here in Birmingham, Alabama. And today I will be making fresh strawberry shortcake with yogurt cream. It is a recipe makeover, so it's got fewer calories, fewer fat, more whole grains than the classic, and tastes equally, if not better, than the original. It's early June. Strawberries are kind of on the end, at least here in Alabama, strawberries are sort of at the end of their season, so we're trying to use them up as quickly as we can. And this is a great recipe to use them. We're gonna start with the shortcake biscuits, which are quick and easy. They're basically drop biscuits, and you just stir them together and drop them out on a baking sheet as opposed to a cake. So we're gonna start with some white whole wheat flour. Now the recipe that we've actually got online is half white flour, half whole wheat flour, but I'm gonna use all whole wheat flour today because I tested it this weekend and it works just as well. So I'm gonna weigh out about 9 ounces of flour. And weighing just is a more precise measurement. A lot of times if you scoop flour out with a measuring cup, you tend to sort of scoop like this and it'll pack it down and ends up being more flour than you need to use and can mess up the recipe. That's why it often says to spoon it out. So it's nice and light and fluffy, excuse me. So we've got 9 ounces of flour. We're gonna do a little bit of sugar. These are essentially drop biscuits, but we add a little bit of sugar to them because it's a sweeter recipe. We still have about half the amount of sugar in the original, but just enough to sweeten. So we add some brown sugar. We're gonna add some baking powder, a little bit of baking soda. These are leaveners, so we get our biscuits nice and fluffy. Some salt. Salt not only adds a chemical part of the baking, but it kind of balances the sweetness as well and actually makes it taste a little bit sweeter. Sometimes salt has that effect. So we've got all of our dry ingredients, which we're just gonna whisk together. Sometimes that brown sugar will tend to clump up. So when we whisk it, we wanna make sure we get it nice and smooth. And now we're gonna mix our wet ingredients. Now this is one of my favorite parts of this recipe. I'm gonna take some cold, low-fat buttermilk. Classic recipe usually calls for cream, so this is far lighter, but it's still thick and it's kind of tangy, which has a nice balance with the sweet. And we're gonna add just melted butter. I'm gonna grab a fork. Let's see.
Yeah, you want to?
Gonna grab a fork real quick.
Sydney, somebody wants to know, does it have to be whole wheat flour?
We have a question, does it have to be whole wheat flour? It does not have to be whole wheat flour. If it's your kitchen, you can use whatever flour you want. You can use a gluten-free flour. I love whole wheat flour. I think it's nuttier. And white whole wheat flour is a little bit fluffier than regular whole wheat flour. So for things like biscuits, breads, things that you want light and fluffy and airy, the white whole wheat flour is a good option for that. But no, it does not have to be whole wheat flour. You can certainly use all-purpose for this. Thank you. Yeah. So we're gonna mix our butter into the buttermilk. And we're gonna whisk that up a little bit. Now here's what's gonna happen. The butter and the buttermilk will start to form clumps or lumps. Love the lumps. This is a good thing. Normally you would see this clumpiness and you would think, ew, something happened, it's wrong. This is exactly what you're going for, because what's gonna happen is these clumps are gonna create pockets of butter in the biscuit, and it's gonna make it awesome. So you want the lumpiness. That is a good thing. Let's see, and then we are gonna add some oil, a little bit of oil to cut some saturated fat, but we've got the butter in there for that tastiness. 2 tablespoons of oil. This is canola oil. It has a neutral flavor. You can buy organic if you want to avoid the GMOs, just to add a little bit more fat to our biscuits so they're nice and tender and fluffy. And we're gonna add a little bit of vanilla for some flavor in the biscuits, because it's a sweeter recipe and vanilla always adds a nice flavor to that. Yes.
Someone wanted to know, could you use honey instead of sugar?
Yes, you could definitely use honey instead of sugar. I would add, if you're using honey in the biscuits instead of brown sugar, I would add it to the wet ingredients. It'll mix a little bit easier. Okay, now we're gonna dump our wet ingredients into our dry. We're gonna stir that up. Now your batter is gonna be fairly wet. That's okay. Let's see.
And Hannah wanted to know, is this low calorie?
This is low calorie. So the total on this with whipped cream, strawberries, biscuit, and everything has about 225 calories. The classic has close to, and sometimes over 700 calories. So that's how much we're saving. And it's delicious. So if you're just tuning in, we are making fresh strawberry shortcake just at the very tail end of our fresh strawberry season. Now you can buy strawberries any time of year, but they're plumpest and juiciest and sweetest right now. So this is the time to get them. So we've got our batter. As you can see, it's fairly wet. And I'm just gonna use a 1/4 cup, and they're drop biscuits, which makes them super easy. No rolling, no kneading. You're just gonna take, it's about 2 tablespoons full. You can use a 1/4 cup or a spoon. You can use your hands, but it's gonna be a little bit sticky because this batter is a little bit more wet than some of your other batters. But we're gonna drop about 12 biscuits onto our sheet. And I've got the oven preheating now at 450, so it's a very hot oven because you want that hot air going into these biscuits so that they'll rise and get nice and tall. And once we get those going, and this recipe is super fast. It can be ready in less than 30 minutes, which is awesome.
Sydney, we have another question.
Okay.
So Dee wanted to know, could you use half almond meal and half flour, or would that be too dense?
I think it's going to be dense. I'm not saying you can't use it or try it. It may need a little bit more leavener, which is the baking powder, if you use almond meal. Or you can just cut back on some of the canola oil because almond meal's got a little bit of fat in it too. But it's worth a try. I definitely would attempt it because a lot of people are using almond meal. That would add even a nuttier flavor to this. So we've got our dozen biscuits. We're going to go into a 450-degree oven for about 12 minutes. You can check them after 10. They'll go in there right in the middle. We'll set it for 12. You can check it 12 to 10. Some people like their bottoms browner than others. Now we are going to work on our strawberries. So in-season strawberries are sweet, they're juicy, they're plump, they're fresh, they're delicious. They don't need much sugar to macerate. Macerating strawberries is when you add a little bit of sugar. Berries work very, very well with this, and it draws out the natural juices of the strawberries. It works with blackberries, raspberries, and it makes them it just pulls out a natural syrup basically. So we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of sugar, and we're just gonna stir them up. And I actually have some berries over here that I'll use to build, because they can sit for anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour. The longer they sit, the juicier they get. So if you like yours super syrupy, then let them sit a little bit longer. And if you're impatient and want to eat the minute those biscuits come out of the oven, you can do that too. So we'll just toss those together. Look how beautiful those strawberries are. I'm telling y'all, this is the best time of year to get strawberries. They should be in the farmers markets, and we're down here in Alabama where, like I said, it's much hotter here, so we're at the end of our strawberry season, unfortunately. But if you're up north, you may have a couple of months left, or weeks left at least. So we're gonna let our strawberries sit there, and we're gonna move on to the yogurt whipped cream part. If you're just tuning in, we're making fresh strawberry shortcakes with yogurt whipped cream. We've got our whole grain shortcakes in the oven, rising beautifully. We've got our strawberries macerating in just a teeny bit of sugar. We use that so we'll pull out the natural juices and make it nice and syrupy and juicy and delicious. Now we are gonna make some lightened whipped cream, and we are lightening it with 2% Greek yogurt. 2% Greek yogurt is nice and creamy and thick and tangy. And when you add it into whipped cream, it's just as fluffy, it's tall, but it has far fewer calories, far fewer saturated fat than heavy whipped cream. So we're just gonna add 1/3 cup of heavy whipping cream to our 1/2 cup of Greek yogurt. And we're gonna add a little bit of sugar to this as well because Greek yogurt is very tangy. So the sugar will kind of help balance that. We're going to do 2 tablespoons there. And then we are going to do a teaspoon of lemon juice. Actually, a teaspoon of lemon juice that goes in the strawberries. I left that out earlier. So we're going to add just a splash to our strawberries. Okay, back to the whipped cream. Now, we've got our heavy whipping cream and our 2% Greek yogurt that we're just going to add. You can do this by hand if you want to work those arm muscles. Personally, I'm going to work with the hand mixer. But you can see it getting nice and fluffy already. And you can add a splash of vanilla to this if you would like. Even better, if you've got vanilla beans in your pantry. They're expensive, but they're totally, totally worth the extra expense. And you can use that. I put a little bit of vanilla in our whole grain biscuits, and you could use that in there as well. But it would be wonderful with this dish and our whipped cream. All right. So if you're just joining us, thank you for tuning in. We are making fresh strawberry shortcake. We are making the most of all of those beautiful strawberries that are in the market, fresh out of the field right now. Okay, see that? Look how nice and fluffy that is. And our strawberry shortcakes, it's a recipe makeover. These have about 225 calories for everything. The shortcake, the whipped cream, the strawberries. Classic version has really over 700 calories. Whipped cream is heavy. The biscuits usually have, excuse me, a good bit of butter and heavy cream in them. We lighten ours with a little bit of canola oil. We use whole grains, and we use buttermilk instead of heavy whipping cream. All right. See how nice and fluffy that is? And that's about equal parts heavy whipping cream and 2% Greek yogurt. And there's a little bit of sugar in there to help balance the tang. So we've got our shortcakes in the oven, but I pre-baked a batch. So I've already got one that we can build. Look at that. Beautiful, nice and nutty. This one is with whole grain flour. You can use all purpose, but I prefer the flavor of whole grain. It just needs, sometimes it just needs a little bit of extra time to rise, but with these are so quick, it doesn't need that, so it works perfectly here. We've got our whipped cream and our strawberries. So these have been sitting, here I'll show you the difference. I did some about 20 minutes ago. You can see how juicy these are. See all that syrup down in there? And these have been sitting for probably about 20, 25 minutes, and I just tossed these, but even these that I tossed 10 minutes ago have got a good bit of juice and liquid, and all that was a tablespoon or 2 of sugar in there. It just draws out all those yummy, sweet strawberry juices. So we're gonna take our biscuit, and I like to add the strawberries first, because if you add them after the whipped cream, it'll weigh it down. It won't be quite as fluffy. So we've got our strawberries, if you want to get some of that. I like to let a little bit of it soak into the biscuit. That's the whole point of this, right? We've got our syrup on there, and then our whipped cream. Look at that. Give it a dollop or 2. It's Monday. Everybody's having a case of the Mondays. Let's have another dollop. And if you want, fresh mint is a perfect complement to this. Add a little bit of fresh mint, and you have your 225 calorie strawberry shortcake that the classic has over 700 calories. This is so good you could eat it for breakfast. It's fast, it's less than half an hour. Thank you for tuning in. And you can find the recipe at cookinglight.com or myrecipes.com. Just look for fresh strawberry shortcake with yogurt cream. Thank you very much. Y'all have a wonderful day.